Here we go. Welcome into the show. Happy Wednesday, everybody, and officially a happy October. Can you believe October is already here? We officially turned the page, and there's so much to get to here on the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. A lot of the real ones got that notification. They're starting to pile into the live show. And what we're getting into today, news, takeaways, analysis, going into this Week 5 matchup against the Denver Broncos. And if you're a true football fan, this matchup between the Eagles and the Broncos, a really good one, especially in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So coming up here on the show, we have a few segments that we're going to dive into here. How the Eagles got a gift from the Broncos going into this game. This young Eagles defense is scary now and in the future. I'm going to explain why this Eagles offensive line has to improve. And we're going to do a mailbag as well, so start getting those questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. That is the Eagles Now rundown for this Wednesday, October 1st. Of course, we always like to compete here at Chat Sports as well with how our shows perform, but also our super chat battles. And so far this week, a good battle for the teams that we cover inside the NFC East. The Cowboys report on their live show did $105 in super chats. Giants now, 102. Commanders report, 73. My question for all of you, can we beat that number? If you send in a super chat, it goes a long way in supporting everything that we do here on the program. Another reminder, if you want to be a part of our mailbag segment, it's very easy. Within your comment, within your question, as you put those comments into the chat right now, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. And if you're ready to talk some birds, 200 people watching live, that number is going to continue to increase. Only 28 likes. I need you. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Another loaded show on the docket for today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, really excited to talk birds. Philadelphia, Buffalo, the only two teams in the NFL still unbeaten, and the Eagles look to stay undefeated as they welcome the Denver Broncos to Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday. All right, I appreciate all of the real ones for being here. Producer Chip making the show go. He's on the ones and twos. All of you hanging out here with me. And with that, let's start the official show right now. All right, we're off and running. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate all of the real ones for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up, another loaded show on the docket, how the Philadelphia Eagles are getting a gift from the Denver Broncos going into this Week 5 matchup. And this start for Philadelphia, numbers-wise, has been very uninspiring. And we're going to take a look at those numbers coming up in just a few moments. I do want to begin here, though. And here at Chat Sports, me personally, I'm a competitor. And I love competing. And there are two powerhouse channels that I want to hone in on here to start today's program. Chicago Bears Now and Philadelphia Eagles Now. Now, a lot of you might be saying, Chase, Bears, Eagles, it's not really a rivalry. But here's what I'm talking about here. Bears Now, led by the great host Harrison Graham, hit 100,000 subscribers September 8th of 2024. Here on this channel, we hit that milestone of 100K and got that silver plaque from YouTube January 19th of 2025, so earlier this year. Obviously, several months between when Bears Now hit that number and Eagles Now. But look at how much ground we've been able to make up as far as subscribers gained since then. And I want to overtake Bears Now with the amount of subscribers on this channel. As of this recording, Bears Now, 132,201. We are just behind them, less than 700 away at 131,539. Can we overtake them? I think that we can. I believe in you. Lock us in, hit that subscribe button if you want elite Eagles coverage every single day here on YouTube. So let's shift gears and focus in on this Week 5 matchup here between Denver and Philadelphia. For those of you who are die-hard football fans, who canvass all rosters across the NFL, And from a matchup perspective, you're really going to enjoy this game on Sunday. Now, the Eagles do have the rest advantage and the body clock advantage because the Broncos played at home on Monday Night Football and they have to travel to Philadelphia for this 1 p.m. Eastern game. And obviously, there's a couple of hours difference between Mountain Time and Eastern Time. Plus, Denver played on Monday. The Eagles played on Sunday. And it's not a long trip from Philadelphia to Tampa. And so there's that advantage. And I think the Eagles are just the better, more seasoned team. And that's why Philadelphia, 3.5-point favorites. The opening line, the Eagles were giving 4.5 points to Denver. And so depending on what sports book you look at, it's a pretty healthy line for the Eagles. The over-under for this game at 43.5 between two of the top defenses in the NFL, and especially in the trenches. This is going to be a really fun and entertaining matchup to watch. And then you think about some of the other matchups that come to mind, right? Like A.J. Brown going up against Patrick Surtain, the Broncos defensive line against the Eagles offensive line, the Broncos rushing attack against this Eagles rushing defense. A lot of good matchups across the board. The Broncos so far, been an up and down start for Sean Payton's team. They haven't beaten a team that I think is really legitimate. Week 1 beat the Titans 20-12. Week 2, down to the wire loss against the Indianapolis Colts, one of the big surprise teams in the league, 29-28 the final there. Then the Broncos lost another close game, 23-20 to the Chargers, and then they come back on Monday and beat the Joe Burrow-less Bengals 28-3. The Eagles so far, I think all of these wins are quality wins, and unfortunately for the Eagles, they haven't put together a game in which they've played their best football on both sides of the ball for all 60 minutes, but you've seen glimpses of what this team can become. And under Nick Sirianni, the Eagles have done a great job of making in-season adjustments and peaking late outside of 2023. But a 24-20 win over the Cowboys. Cowboys pretty impressive on Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers. A 20-17 win on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. Birds beat the Rams to 26 unanswered in week 3, 33-26. And the Buccaneers are a really good team. I think they're serious contenders in the NFC. And so for the Eagles to build a 31-13 lead over Tampa Bay in those weather conditions, and then to hold on to win 31-25, I chalk that up as an impressive dub. Back to the Broncos and scouting this team. Their defense is fantastic. Their defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, been around the block many times. They're giving up just 16.8 points per game, tied for second in the NFL. Offensively, running it really well with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. 143.3 rushing yards per game. That's 5th among 32 teams. Bo Nix has been just okay. A little bit of a sophomore slump to begin the 2025 season. Their offensive line, though, last year and this year, one of the best in the league. And this is just a very well-coached ball club. As for scouting the Eagles, the big question that we all have, can the offense play a full 60 minutes? This offensive unit has really lacked rhythm and explosive plays. But on offense, a big reason why they are 4-0, despite not putting up great numbers, and we'll get to some of those numbers coming up later, they have 0 turnovers on offense so far. That's a sustainable way to play football. That's a winning brand of football. On defense, they have given up explosive plays, especially for touchdowns. There have been breakdowns, but they've also been pretty legit. And the Eagles are such a battle-tested club that they thrive in all of these close games. By the numbers, how the Broncos stack up. Offensively, points per game 16th, yards per game 9th, yards per play 10th, third down conversion rate 16th, good in the red zone, number 8 there. On defense, stellar. Number 2 in points per game allowed, 10th in yards per game, 8th in yards per play, 4th on third downs, number 1 in the red zone. So really a top 5, top 10 unit across the board. And then the Eagles, obviously the struggles well documented on offense. They are 7th in points per game, 30th in yards per game, 30th in yards per play, but they're good in a couple of crucial categories here. 8th in third downs and number 1 in red zone touchdown efficiency. They've been inside the red zone 11 times. They've scored 11 touchdowns. And the Broncos, as I said, an elite red zone defense. What's going to give on Sunday? Defensively for Vic Fangio's team, they've been just okay. I think they've looked better than what the numbers indicate here. 15th in points per game, 22nd in yards per game, 18th in yards per play, 14th in third downs, and then third in red zone touchdown efficiency. And so with that, some of my keys to the game here, I think it's really important for Philadelphia to stop that Broncos run game. If you force the Broncos offense to be one-dimensional, I like how this Eagles defense can fare against Baun, who against good teams this year has really struggled. And if he has to throw it too much, especially this year, he's thrown 4 interceptions. And so shut down that ground game, which at times has been a struggle for Philadelphia, and I like the Eagles' chances here. On offense, you have to finally catch a rhythm, and at some point you have to find an identity. We're a month in, it's still early, but at some point soon, you have to figure out who you are. If there's a weakness for this Broncos defense, it is their linebacking core. And so I want to see the Eagles run shallow crosses. I want to see the Eagles maybe target Dallas Goedert in between the numbers, in between the hashes, utilize Saquon Barkley as a pass catcher, because Alex Singleton, a former Eagle, has gone on to have a pretty solid career since leaving Philadelphia, but right now he's their best linebacker and he's not great in coverage. The Eagles need also to get the ground game going. This will organically open up the pass game, and then how much longer will A.J. Brown not pop off on the sideline? Like at some point, you can see the frustration starting to build up and fester. He's going to go off. If this Eagles pass game continues to struggle, find ways to scheme him open. Now, of course, I started today's show with the talking point, how the Denver Broncos gave the Eagles a gift going into this game. Why is that the case? How have the Broncos given the Eagles a gift going into this Week 5 matchup? Well, a couple of things here. The Eagles do have the rest advantage and the body clock advantage, as I mentioned. But the Broncos up to this point have also struggled against quality teams. They've beaten 2 bad teams. They've lost to 2 playoff-level teams. There's also this. We know Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia, raucous environment. And that place is going to have nearly 70,000 people who are getting lit, making a lot of noise. It makes for an incredible game day atmosphere. And it's truly become a home field advantage for the Eagles. The Eagles have won 13 straight games at the Link. It has been 379 days as of this recording since the Eagles lost at the Link. Whereas the Denver Broncos this year and going back to last year are 1-7 in their last 8 games away from Mile High. Edges with Philadelphia there, and I think that's a big reason why the Eagles are sizable favorites in this ball game. So if you think the Eagles will beat the Denver Broncos, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, I want you to comment why. Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section. Still to come, the Eagles are 4-0, but it's been a frustrating, maddening start, and we're going to take a look at the numbers because it's also been an uninspiring start for the Eagles. How so? Continue to hang out here with us. But this Eagles hoodie that we told you about last Sunday during our watch party was on sale. It's discounted even further now. Kelly green, old school Eagles logo across the chest, Nike logo on that left sleeve. How often do you find a sweatshirt and a hoodie like this that is Nike for just $59? So the price has actually gone down from $85 to $59. We sold a couple of these on Sunday during that Eagles-Buccaneers watch party. Hop on this deal. It lasts limited time only, and you have to use our link in order for that deal to apply. It's chatsports.com/KellyHoodie. Chatsports.com/KellyHoodie. Get your hoodies today. So let's get to this. The Eagles are 4-0, but statistically, they are one of the worst 4-0 teams in the history of the NFL. You take out that win against the Cowboys in Week 1, the Eagles have been outgained in every game since. Outgained by 78 yards by the Chiefs, 68 by the Rams, and 176 yards by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's take a look at some chat stats here. Since the 1970 NFL-AFL merger, there have been 148 times a team has started 4-0. 2 of them this year, only the Bills and the Eagles. Only one team, the 2012 Arizona Cardinals, who won 1 game the rest of the year, had a worse yardage differential than the Eagles' mark of minus 327. How about that? Only 13 4-0 teams have had a negative yardage differential. 10 of those teams made the playoffs, which the Eagles will do unless they are completely decimated by injuries. But those teams in the playoffs, only 8 and 10. This is why the Eagles need to get it going, and they need to get it going quickly. And I mentioned just moments ago, the 148 teams. Here is where the Eagles rank among those 148 teams during this time frame that have started 4-0. They are last in yards gained, last in yards per play, last in yards per completion, second to last in yard differential, third to last in yards passing per attempt. They are 144th in sack rate, 143rd in point differential, 143rd in yards per completion allowed, 133rd in points against, 129th in sack rate. We're not done. They rank 127th among those 148 teams in yards per rushing attempt against, 126th in plays run, 126th in halftime point differential, 112th in yards allowed, 97th in yards per attempt allowed, and 83rd in points scored. Now, I do think there are reasons for hope here. And obviously, trends are meant to be broken. But you think about this Eagles team, they really do have a feel of an elite college program where every single week is a huge game, and every single week, the Nick Saban Alabama teams, the Kirby Smart Georgia teams. You think back, way back in the day, the Pete Carroll USC teams, the Mac Brown Texas teams in the early 2000s. They played big games every week, and maybe they didn't play their best every week. They found ways to win. The Eagles are so good at being able to find ways to win. But the reason why I think you should be hopeful about this Eagles team, they have plenty of time. They played deep into the calendar year. They had a shortened offseason. They have a bunch of talent, and they have the coaching to figure it out. Also, you'd be hard-pressed among those 148 teams to find teams who have had a schedule as difficult as the Eagles have had. And it's not like the schedule's going to get easier the rest of the way out. It is still going to be a very hard schedule. But over the next month, it eases up at least a little bit as far as some of the quarterbacks you are going to play before it ramps back up late in the year. But that's why it's so important to start off 4-0, because you earn yourselves and get yourselves a little bit of wiggle room. I have full confidence in this Eagles team, but obviously those numbers to begin the year, a little bit uninspiring, a little bit concerning, and let's remember those numbers as this season progresses. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I give you so much content every single day here on YouTube. I also give you additional content on my social media pages, so give me a follow over there. Couple of super chats that I want to get to here. Romeo Talon. What up, Romeo? I sent you an email, by the way, asking you what jersey you want for the Venmo raffle on Sunday. Just shoot me that email back so that we can get you that jersey there, Romeo. Do we think the lack of offensive synchronization and execution is due to ineffective offseason prep due to injury and no preseason gameplay to develop the harmony we need to see the birds fly as high as we all believe that they can? Yeah, I think anytime you don't play in the preseason, I've kind of said this has been a new movement across the NFL. The first month of the year is kind of your preseason, and that's why the Eagles have always kind of found their groove and found their stride after the first month of the year. 2022, they weren't great to start the year. 2024, they weren't great to start the year. 2021, they didn't really get good and become a playoff team until about the midway portion of the season. Nick Sirianni's team got off to a kind of a rocky start. And so I do think that's part of the problem. Also, there's this, right? New offensive coordinator. And I know it's the same type of scheme, but Kevin Patullo has a different offensive mind than Kellen Moore. He has different philosophies than Kellen Moore. He sees the game and feels the game differently than Kellen Moore. And so I think all of these things are a big problem. We're about to talk about the offensive line. I think that's a huge reason why the Eagles are struggling as well. Romeo with another 5. Props to my guys over at Chat Sports. Thanks for all that you all do. Romeo, we appreciate your support. By the way, if you want to be a part of our mailbag, you can send in a super chat like that, and those are good questions that will get featured. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat, and then we're up to $25 with those 2 super chats here for our NFC East super chat battle. And you look at that leaderboard here. We're trying to beat the Cowboys report at 105, Giants now at 102, Commanders report at 73. It only takes one. A $100 super chat, we take down all of those other channels inside the NFC East. All right, let's shift gears to segment number 2. Lot to get into here. I'm going to give you some good news and some bad news for Philadelphia throughout the first 4 weeks of the season, also working off the heels of that win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Continue to hang out here with us. Our mailbag will be segment number 3. Get those questions in, Chip. How we doing on questions, by the way?
So far, we only have one question, actually, and it's from, well, now 2 with Trey Losado getting one in there. We have one from D. White, the gamer, as well, actually a Broncos fan in there getting a question and shout out, but only 2 questions, 3 actually if you count Romeo's super chat, so plenty of opportunity for you to get on the show. 278 people watching. Just do what Trey Losado did. Hashtag Eagles, ask a question. You can get featured on the show.
You heard it from Chip. Hashtag Eagles, send in a super chat. One of our last calls to get involved with our mailbag. If we don't get enough questions, we'll just sign off, but I don't want to do that because I want to kick it here with all of you. All right, segment number 2 coming up. Let's go. Yo, welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic week. And look, there are so many content options out there. So anytime you decide to watch our shows, I do appreciate that. Coming up here on this segment, Eagles fans getting some good news and some bad news prior to this Week 5 matchup against the Denver Broncos. What do I mean by that? Stay tuned to find out. But I do want to begin here. We are shooting for 132,000 subscribers here on Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you want Eagles coverage that is insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, where you have a voice, join the movement, hit that sub button, and with this video alone, we've been able to pick up some crazy subscribers with all of our shows, right? And here at Chat Sports, no channel covering the NFL has picked up more subs in the last calendar year than us. We have work to do. And I think that we can accomplish this goal of 132,000 subscribers with this show. We're 452 people away. All right, let's begin here. Obviously, we saw last year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and they were the number 1 defense in the National Football League, partially because of the play of their 2 rookies who Howie Roseman took in the first 2 rounds. Quinyon Mitchell in the first round, Cooper DeJean in the second round. They were fantastic players in Week 1 in their debut seasons in the National Football League. And obviously, when you do what they did in the regular season, and then they were even better in the playoffs, and then Cooper DeJean had the pick 6 of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, that's going to lead to expectations being very high, not just for 2025 and their sophomore campaigns, but for the rest of their Eagles careers. And I'll tell you what, to start this year, I think Quinyon and DeJean have been playing at Pro Bowl, All-Pro levels, and the last couple of weeks, they've especially been truly elite. And then against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they took it up a notch again. And these are 2 building blocks on this Eagles defense that I think can be a part of this core for the next 5, 8, hopefully 10 years. And Quinyon and DeJean specifically against the Buccaneers at the cornerback spots truly had 2 of the best performances on film that you'll ever see from a cornerback duo in an NFL game. And because of how dominant he was, this man here to my right, talking about Quinyon Mitchell, he was named the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And here is why. He had more than 50 snaps in coverage, 72 snaps for the game. You want to talk about stamina with the real field temperature being over 100 degrees the entire game? That's Quinyon Mitchell right there. So he logs those 72 snaps. He was targeted 9 times. On those 9 targets, he only gave up 2 catches for 6 yards. He had 5 pass breakups in a single game, and he allowed a rating when targeted of 39.6. And he by far was the highest graded corner among all corners in week 4, according to Pro Football Focus. He earned a 91.8 grade, ahead of Byron Murphy, ahead of Charvarius Ward, ahead of James Pierre, and Drew Phillips of the Giants. And I really do think that the last 2 games specifically, Quinyon Mitchell has played like a defensive player of the year. And some people might say, Chase, it's really hard to win DPOI as a corner. I get it. Usually it goes to a defensive end and an edge rusher. Aaron Donald, sometimes it goes to a player like that at defensive tackle. But in 2024, especially in this pass-happy era of football, it did go to Patrick Surtain. Quinyon Mitchell continues to play like he has the last 2 weeks, locking down and traveling with Devontae Adams, and then putting the clamps, Quinyon on a young rising star like Emeka Egbuka. He's going to be in the running to be an All-Pro, but he could be in the running to win Defensive Player of the Year. Furthermore, some of the next-gen stats with Quinyon, unbelievable. So he had those 44 coverage snaps, not 50-plus like I said a little bit earlier. That's my bad. Receptions, targets, 2 and 9. And obviously, the databases always change, by the way, PFF Next Gen Stats, because they have their own tracking metrics. He gave up 6 receiving yards. Here's where it gets crazy. Tight windows forced, 7 on those 9 targets, and his time in tight coverage, 17.9 seconds. The 6 tight window targets, tied for the most since 2018. That is just crazy, unbelievable play by Quinyon Mitchell. And what I really love, too, how feisty he was. He got in the face of Baker Mayfield, talked some smack, didn't back down. He got in the face, and I don't always recommend this, but he got in the face of Tristan Wirfs, grabbed the helmet off of his head. And last year, he was kind of a silent assassin. He didn't really say much. He was trying to find his groove and find his place as a rookie. But you're seeing Quinyon play with more aggressiveness, carry himself with more swagger, and I love that about him. And when you combine the performances of both Quinyon and Coop, here's how they played against the Bucs. 18 combined targets between the two 2024 draft picks, 7 catches allowed for 52 yards, 4 pass breakups, and a passer rating allowed when targeted of 47. And a big reason why Vic Fangio is such a big fan of both these players, but especially Cooper DeJean, it's the football IQ. They are both so cerebral. And Cooper DeJean is just such a great football player. And that's why the Eagles have him at outside corner, in the slot, and playing safety. He made one of the finest plays I've ever seen on tape for a cornerback. Not a hyperbolic statement, no joke. And it's one of the smartest plays that I've ever seen because this is all based on feel and recognition. And so let's take a look at the tape to do a little bit of a film breakdown. You'll see that Baker Mayfield is under center, lone tailback, kind of a heavy formation, and Cooper DeJean is lined up at right corner for the defense on the left side of the offensive line of scrimmage, one-on-one against Emeka Egbuka, right? And this is when the Buccaneers ran that flea flicker trick play. And obviously, the thought and the first read on the flea flicker is to fake out the defense, show run, have the defense crash forward, get a safety to bite, and then take that deep shot. Well, here you'll see that as Baker Mayfield is about to get the pitch back to him off that flea flicker, you see that Cooper DeJean is lined up right here. And he is trailing the deep shot guy, Emeka Egbuka. But Cooper DeJean also realizes that he's got some safety help back there. So we go to the next slide. And clearly Baker wants to take that shot. But look at Cooper DeJean's eyes right here. He takes his eyes off Egbuka because he knows that he has the safety help here. And then in his defensive progression in the secondary, he sees Chris Godwin coming across the field here. So Cooper DeJean is going to leave the vertical to cover the crosser. He cuts it upfield back toward the line of scrimmage, gets in front of Chris Godwin, and nearly intercepts this pass. Now, in the moment, it looked like he did pick off this pass, but it did hit the ground. But that is such a heads-up play to do this in real time, to react so quickly to make a play of this level. I mean, this is a second-year guy. And Quinyon and Coop right now are playing like savvy veterans. And they can continue to get better. And collectively, this Eagles defense as a whole can continue to get better and improve and dominate. And this is why Eagles fans should be so damn excited. Philadelphia right now, based on playing time, has the youngest defense in the National Football League. And this isn't changing anytime soon. And we're going to take a look at this by level. So defensive line, linebackers into the secondary. Nolan Smith is 23. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are both still 24. Moro Ajomo having a great year, 24. Jalix Hunt, 24. Zack Baun is like the elder statesman on this defense. He's 28. Jahad Campbell is 21. Quinyon Mitchell is 24. Keely Ringo is 23. Reed Blankenship is 26. Drew Makuba and Cooper Jean are 22. This is a collective defensive core that can continue to grow, evolve, improve, get better, and continue to really play fantastic football under Vic Fangio for years to come. Now, as I mentioned off the rip, that's the good news for Eagles fans. The bad news is something that we're going to get to here just on the other side. And this has become a problematic issue that has led to a lot of the Eagles' struggles this season, and we're going to get to that here in just a few moments. But first, let's give a shout out to our friends at PrizePicks. We really appreciate them for making today's Philadelphia Eagles now possible. The #1 fantasy sports app. You can win big up to 2,000 times your money. Available all across the country. It's easy and exciting daily fantasy. You can see for yourself at prizepicks.com/CLNS. There are also some new features here with PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? You can do that. You could pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. You can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Our 3-pick power play, A.J. Brown just has to go off against the Broncos, right? Let's go with more than 55.5 receiving yards. J.K. Dobbins, really good back to start the season, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. And then Jalen Hurts, more than 180.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's get to this. There is a huge issue that the Philadelphia Eagles need to fix, and they need to fix this as soon as possible. Otherwise, they won't fulfill the expectations that this team is capable of accomplishing here in 2025. If they want to repeat as Super Bowl champions, this offensive line needs to improve. And we think of this Eagles offensive line as one of the best units in all of football, a unit that can dominate game in and game out, that wears the opposition down throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. That hasn't been the case this year. And there has been a very concerning regression with this Eagles offensive line the first 4 games of the year. It does not look like an elite unit. They've been anything but that to start off this season. And when you think about this matchup on Sunday against the Denver Broncos, this Eagles offensive line needs to play better against a Broncos team that has one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're number 2 in points per game given up, but they are number 1 in the following categories: sacks with 15, quarterback hits with 41, pressure rate at 47.1%. This is an Eagles offense that hasn't been able to throw it consistently. Part of the reason? Pressure, especially from the interior. This is an Eagles offensive line that hasn't been able to block in the run game good enough. Saquon Barkley, I think, looks great. He looks like the player from last year, but the running lanes haven't been open. And this is because the Eagles offensive line, they're not winning their one-on-ones. They're not sound in the scheme. They're missing assignments, and they're just not playing the ball that we're accustomed to seeing them play. And it's the same offensive line outside of right guard where Tyler Steen has taken over for Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton's with the Chargers, and I think at moments, Tyler Steen has played well. On some of Saquon Barkley's touchdown runs, they've run behind Tyler Steen. He's had some good blocks. He's pretty athletic. But the consistency with his game isn't there. And that's kind of always been the problem with him. And then furthermore, you look at how this Eagles offensive line has performed in 2025. There's a lot of money invested up front. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Jordan Mailata. He's actually been one of the highest graded offensive linemen in the game. But Landon Dickerson, not playing well. He is number 2 in average annual value for left guards in the NFL. Cam Jurgens is one of the highest paid centers in the NFL. Hasn't played all that great. Tyler Steen, way too up and down. Lane Johnson, when on the field, has been very good, not elite, but he's also been hurt a couple of times. And so these numbers here are problematic, and they're kind of shocking, right? Philadelphia, 25th in yards before contact per carry, 27th in run stuff rate, 22nd in run block rate, 24th in pressure rate allowed, and 26th in pass block win rate. That's not going to cut it. And so you think about this Eagles offense as a whole, as a unit to start the year. They've had good halves. They've had good quarters. They've had good stretches. A big reason, though, why the offense has been inconsistent throwing it, they can't pass protect. A big reason why Saquon Barkley's yards have gone down every week and why he hasn't been able to pop off those long trademark explosive runs, why he hasn't been able to have that great game is because this Eagles offensive line is not doing a good enough job of blocking in the ground game. And this is also pretty nutty, right? Last year, Saquon Barkley had that legendary season. Broke the record for the most rushing yards in a single season when you combine the regular season and playoffs, set the franchise record for rushing yards in a single season, ran for over 2,000 yards in the regular season, nearly beat Eric Dickerson's record with a game fewer played. And how many times did he pop off those explosive runs? I mean, 40, 50, 60, 70-yard runs. Occasionally, no. All the time, yes. This year, though, it hasn't even happened occasionally. And a big reason for that is the space that he's not getting as soon as he gets the ball. And when he's getting some of these carries, it feels as though he is swarmed right away. Now, some of this is due to defenses loading the box and selling out to stop the run because they're trying to stop Saquon first as the point of emphasis for stopping the Eagles offense. But again, the offensive line has to play better. But look at these numbers here. 2024, in yards before contact, yards before he was even contacted, Saquon Barkley would pick up 3.8 yards per attempt prior to contact. Number 1 in the NFL. Here in 2025, he is picking up less than a yard per attempt before contact. And that's why he's had so many TFLs against him, and that's why he has really struggled to get going. I think that Saquon looks every bit of the player that we saw last year. We've seen the burst. We've seen the explosion, but the lanes haven't been there. The gaping holes have not been there. And it's because of the Eagles offensive line. Now, obviously, with the talent, you feel good. With Jeff Stoutland, you feel great. Best offensive line coach in the NFL. But it needs to get fixed and corrected ASAP. How about these numbers here? The Eagles' interior offensive line, Landon Dickerson, Tyler Steen, Cam Jurgens, have given up a combined 26 pressures. That's in the pass game. And you're not going to be successful in the pass game if the pressure is coming from the interior. Why do you think so many teams across the NFL the last few years have really started to prioritize getting pass rushing defensive tackles? It's because if the pocket gets muddied and the quarterback's vision and sightline is blurred, that impacts the entire process of trying to throw the ball downfield. And that's why Jalen Hurts has gotten sacked on a few occasions. That's why Jalen Hurts has been moved off of his spot. That's why at times as a shorter quarterback, Hurts has struggled to throw over the middle because the pressure is coming right from the gut, and immediately that can wreck a play. And specifically with Landon Dickerson, I have some numbers that I'm trying to fetch here. His pass blocking grade this season, week 1, 39.9. Week 2, 56.1. Week 3, 47.5. Week 4, 40.5. He's getting targeted a lot, and clearly he is not healthy to start the year, and he's kind of killing this Eagles offensive line. He's also allowed 3 sacks and 13 total pressures in 2025. He's now on pace to allow 12 sacks and 55 total pressures this year. His previous career high, 5 sacks and 38 total pressures. That came in 2023. So he's a component along the interior and along this Eagles offensive line who also needs to improve. I'm spitting out this type of data, this type of analysis right here on YouTube, but also on my social media pages. So give me a follow over there, X and Instagram at Chase_Senior, and I look forward to hearing from you. Pretty wild, right? We think of this Eagles offensive line as a dominant unit. They have not been a dominant unit this season.
No. All right, shout out to some of the people getting questions in. Cheryl, Philly fan, the Robros, Adam Singleton, Trey Lasato, all getting some questions in. And then, of course, Romeo.
Appreciate it, Romeo.
Meister, maybe Lannon's drinking too much.
He does like his beers.
Hey, them big boys can drink, man. They're
can.
good. They're good.
I really do think it's the back and knee injury. He's just not as strong. And when he's going up against Chris Jones and Vita Vea, it's not been good. It's not been good. All right, we're going to shift gears to our mailbag.
Last chance. You want a question in the mailbag? Hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat. Your last opportunity to get a question in here before we start this mailbag.
Let's get it. Hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat. You heard from the man himself, Chip. He's running the show. All right. Going to open up the floor, do a little bit of a mailbag. Let's start taking your questions right now. Hey there, my name is Chase Senior. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. By the time that this mailbag comes out, I hope all of you are having a fantastic weekend. Coming up, going to open up the floor and talk all things Eagles with our subscribers and real ones. You have questions, I have answers. Speaking of the weekend, Eagles Broncos going down on Sunday. We'll be live for another watch party. We'll be live for a pregame show in the lead up to kickoff, live for the game, and then live for a postgame reaction as well. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 133,000 subscribers, and you won't regret it when you do lock us in because we're pumping out elite content every single day, year round, right here on the program. Romeo Talon gets us started with a $20 super chat. And it's a long one here, but he makes some good points. Do we think that the lack of offensive synchrony and execution is due to ineffective offseason prep due to injury or no preseason gameplay to develop the harmony we need to see the birds fly high as we've all seen them and believe that they can? So, Romeo, some big words there, and I'm impressed by the question. You know ball, and I love to see it. And you bring up some very good topics and points here. I think this is always an under-talked about storyline for teams that make it to a Super Bowl, whether they win it or they lose it. It's how quickly the offseason approaches after making a deep playoff run, and how when you make it to a Super Bowl, you barely have any time to get ready for the next year. And let me just break it down here. The NFL has put together a calendar where pretty much it's become an 11-month sport. You have training camp, which starts at the end of July. Preseason starts in early August. The regular season runs from September through January. The playoffs obviously get underway in January. The Super Bowl is early February. And from our coverage standpoint, we went from training camp preseason, regular season, playoff run. We traveled down to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. We go live for the watch party. Right after that is the NFL Combine. So Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, the Eagles coaching staff, a lot of big members of the staff in the front office, Big Dom included, they immediately have to go to Indianapolis for the scouting combine. And Chip and I, we were barely able to catch our breath just doing our coverage. Imagine what it's like to run an NFL team. Right after the combine, free agency starts in March. Right after that, it's into draft prep, which obviously had been in the process for the last couple of months, and it's ongoing all the time. But the official draft is at the end of April. Right after that, you have rookie minicamp. Then you have OTAs. Then you have mandatory minicamp. And then training camp is here before you know it. So really, there's a month where you can really take time to reset and catch a breath, especially when you make that deep playoff run and you play in a Super Bowl. It's at the end of June into early July. And so I do think that's a factor in the Eagles trying to catch up right now, not looking their best. I'm sure they're a little bit tired. They're trying to knock off some of the cobwebs, and they're trying to build up that stamina because the whole offseason program is impacted by that. Eagles also didn't play in the preseason, as you mentioned, Romeo. And so under Nick Sirianni, they kind of used the first month of the year as that preseason, which is why I think the Eagles are so up and down. Now, they're so good at being able to win these close games late, but they intentionally feel games out to try to find an identity, and then upon doing tape study, they figure out, okay, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Then they do a terrific job of in-season adjustments. And then lastly, to your point, Romeo, why is the offense lacked rhythm? Well, the offensive line has not been good, and that doesn't help. Number two, you do have a new play caller in Kevin Patullo. And obviously the Eagles are running a similar scheme, but Kevin Patullo sees the game differently than Kellen Moore, not as experienced as Kellen Moore. There's a different feel, process, vision, and flow. Obviously, he reacts in-game differently than Kellen Moore, making adjustments differently than Kellen Moore. And so he's trying to find his groove as a play caller. He's a first-time play caller. And I think that's what we've seen so far to start the year. And hopefully I was able to answer your questions there. Outdoor Creations, $5 super chat. Shouldn't we use Will Shipley in the pass game a little bit more? I mean, ideally, yes, but when you have a special player like Saquon Barkley, it's hard to take him off the field. And Saquon has had some lapses as a pass protector this year, but usually he holds up pretty well as a blocker. And so when you have a back who is so special, one of one, like Saquon, who can run it, who can catch it, who can pass protect, and is in such great conditioning, in such great shape, it's hard to take him off the field. But also remember, Will Shipley had a role in week one, caught that screen pass, nearly scored a touchdown against the Cowboys, injured his oblique and ribs. We didn't see him again until that game against the Buccaneers, and he was used a little bit. I expect him to have a bigger role once he gets healthier, especially in the return game. But it's hard to take Saquon off the field. Plus, he's been injured, so he's trying to get his body out to a point where he has that level of stamina. But I like him as a player. Definitely explosive. And what I've seen from him, very impressed. Trey Losado, Eagles so far. Who has been the most impressive player on offense and on defense this year? I would say Jordan Mailata on offense. He's legitimately been maybe the best left tackle in the game. He's been so dominant, and he's been on the field more than Lane Johnson. And so I would go Jordan Mailata at left tackle. On defense, who am I most impressed by? He might not be the best player so far. I would probably go with Zack Baun or Jordan Davis. They deserve their flowers. But the player I'm most impressed by because of how good he is this early, it's Jahad Campbell. I think Jahad Campbell has all-pro potential. And I think this Eagles defense right now, they have 4 players who this time next year might all be all-pros. Zack Baun, Jahad Campbell, Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell. The fact that Jahad Campbell fell to the Eagles at 31, it's one of those things. You're like, how? How did Nolan Smith fall to the Eagles at 31? How did Jalen Carter fall to the Eagles? How did Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean fall to the Eagles? Sometimes you need some good luck. And obviously the Eagles have had some good luck. But Jahad Campbell was my favorite linebacker in the 2025 class. He was one of the best defenders in college football. He did everything so well. Coverage, stopping the run, as a pass rusher, as a blitzer. And he's done all of that this year. To the point where, for real, Jahad Campbell and Zack Baun have been one of the best linebacking duos already. And so with how good he's been this early, I'd say Jahad Campbell on defense. He's been stellar, and he's exceeded my expectations, and my expectations were high for him. I had said I think that he can start week 1. He started week 1. D. White, the gamer, Broncos fan here. Good luck this Sunday. Thank you, bro. Hoping for a great matchup, as this is a prove-it game for our team. It's a big prove-it game for Denver, and so far they're 2-2. They've beaten 2 bad teams, the Titans and the Bengals. They've lost to 2 playoff-level teams, the Colts and the Chargers. And this Broncos defense, really, really good unit. One of the top defenses in the National Football League. They are number 2 in points per game allowed. They're number 1 in sacks. They're number 1 in quarterback hits. They're number 1 in pressure rate. And so with the way that this Eagles offense has been playing, struggling, unable to put together a full 4 quarters, this is a great test against a legitimate defense to see what this Eagles offense can do against one of the finer units in the NFL. Offensively, the Broncos are running it so well, averaging more than 143 rushing yards per game. That's number 5 in the league. And J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey have been awesome. Bo Nix has kind of disappointed me a little bit. He's kind of just been okay to start the year. But Sean Payton's teams in September are really never that great. They're always better after the first month of the year, kind of like Nick Sirianni's teams. It's almost like good coaches know we want to peak late as compared to early. I will say this about Denver. They are not good on the road. 1-7 in their last 8 road games, whereas the Eagles have won 13 straight games at Lincoln Financial Field. So for all those reasons, I'm expecting a good game. Glad that a Broncos fan is hanging out. Treat them well in the comment section. We're not as bad as what the national media says we are. And good luck on Sunday. Looking forward to it. I think it's one of the better football X's and O's matchups here in Week 5. Speaking of that matchup, who you got? DN for the Broncos, PHI for the Eagles. Get those predictions in right now. We do have a great deal that we want to tell you about thanks to our friends at Fanatics. This Saquon Barkley Salute to Service jersey just dropped right before this show. And they're available right now at chatsports.com/Saquon Service. Now, they're a little pricey, but I think these are incredible. And obviously, thank you to all of our service members, past, current, and in the future, who are serving or will serve our country. I love our country. Greatest nation to live in America, or in the world, excuse me. I love America. God bless America. And so thank you to all of our troops for continuing to keep us safe and making this the freest country in the world. And so if you want to pay your respects to our troops and support our troops, get your Saquon Barkley Salute to Service jerseys. Obviously, the NFL has paired up with the military over the last several years to support our troops. So get your jerseys today. Chatsports.com/Saquon Service. USA. USA. We appreciate and love all of our troops. John Galt, you know what I think the Eagles' biggest problem is right now? Penalties. Look at the first down numbers. We are down by 8 first downs against opponents. We are down 8 first downs by penalties. Yeah, I think at times the penalties have hurt the Eagles. When I watch them, I don't say to myself, man, this is a really sloppy team. I think they're a pretty well-coached team. If anything, it's the unsportsmanlike penalties that have really killed the Eagles, and a lot of those have come on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's taunting. And look, I hate the new emphasis on taunting. I don't think there's an NFL fan out there who cares if Cooper DeJean steps over a Buccaneers wide receiver. I don't think there's a fan out there who cares that Jalen Carter is talking a little bit of smack after blocking that Rams field goal in a huge spot. The Intensity levels in the game of football are massive. This game means so much. There's so much that goes into it. These players are putting their literal bodies on the line. Let them celebrate. But you also have to stay and play within the rules, and the Eagles are lucky that these penalties haven't come back to really cost them because they've been kind of idiotic penalties at times based upon the rules. Adam Singleton, a real one here on the show, one of our Super Chat GOATs and MVPs. Hope all is well, my brother. If we keep playing like we do, is it going to be a repeat of 2023? Yes, they are 4-0, but I know playing like this will eventually catch up to us. You guys are real ones. Keep up the badass videos. Thank you, Adam. You're the man. I get why people have reservations about the 2025 Eagles compared to the 2023 Eagles and some of the similarities there. The Eagles in 2023 obviously got off to that 10-1 start. A lot of those wins were fluky. They're off to a 4-0 start. A lot of the wins are kind of fluky, but I think they're hard-earned and they've been clutch, and I think winning is a skill, and they're battle-tested. They have a Teflon type of mindset, and they have a championship pedigree. When you compare 2025 to 2023, I do think this Eagles team is better, right? The defense is more skilled. They have more talent, and they're younger. You think about some of the players who were starting that year. Nicholas Morrow, Kevin Byard, Terrell Edmonds. I mean, there were players, Zach Cunningham. There were players starting on that defense that shouldn't have sniffed the roster, right? James Bradbury was starting at outside corner. And so there's that. This defense is so much more talented. They're the number one defense in the NFL. And we're seeing some young players play great football. Like Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jahad Campbell have all-pro potential. Zach Baun's already an all-pro. Jalen Carter was an all-pro. Jordan Davis this year has played like an all-pro. You do need to get better production from your edge rushers, but Andrew Nakobe has potential. Blankenship is really good. So I think the defense will continue to get better. Obviously, on offense, you do have a new play caller, as we talked about a little bit earlier. And that's led to some of the offensive inconsistencies. But I just think this 2025 team is a lot better. Like 2023, worst personnel on defense, you also didn't have Vic Fangio. You had Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. And I think this Eagles offense is just more experienced, better, and I think they can make the necessary adjustments to improve. Say the right. To me, it's the team, the players wanting to put the foot on the gas from start to finish, but coaches are trying to be conservative at moments in the game. And you can see where the coaches are coming from, right? The Eagles, when they win the turnover margin, are something like, under Nick Sirianni, I think 34-2, 34-4 when they win the turnover margin, whatever. They kind of err on the side of caution because they know if we win the turnover battle with our talent, with our coaching, with our execution, with how pinpoint we are on the details, we're going to outlast the opponent. We're going to wear them down. We're going to be like a boa constrictor, and we're going to suffocate them, and we're going to end up winning late. At the same time, though, you can't let the defense, when you're running offense, dictate what you do. You do need to press the issue. You need to be a little bit more aggressive. We saw that in the second half of the Rams game. We saw it in the first half of the Bucs game. Did things carry over? We thought so at the moment, and then they sucked in that second half. I also think there's something to be said for just playing turnover-free football. The Eagles' offense has not turned it over yet this year. And there's a reason why Nick Sirianni has ball security signs all across the Eagles facility, because they really emphasize that. And when you win the turnover battle at the NFL level, you win about 80% of the games. So I certainly see where the coaches are coming from because it's worked. And how do you go against that? Because under Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, it's been an effective strategy. But I do wish that there was some more offensive aggression. Just like Vic Fangio this year, not getting as much production from his edge rushers, is blitzing a little bit more to the defense's benefit. Great questions. I always love chopping it up with everybody. And all of our mailbags end up doing very well as far as watch time and overall views. So I'm glad that you like the content as well. We'll see you on Sunday for our Eagles-Broncos watch party. Can't wait for it. Don't forget to subscribe. All right, thanks, everybody. Chip and I are going to sign off. You're all the best. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks to all of you for watching the show. Thanks to Chip for producing it. and we'll catch you soon. Peace.